They basically use people till they're used up. And that's how you have so many people that are damaged.
People are suffering silently because they don't know where to go, who to turn to.
As long as this continues and as long as people are silent, this is going to keep continuing, and there's children in there that deserve a future, they deserve better.
I'm Anke Richter. I'm a journalist in Christchurch, and I wrote the book Cult Trip, which came out in 2022. In the aftermath of my book release, I got contacted by especially a lot of former kids from cults, from groups that I didn't even know existed, and they were all asking for help. And it became so clear to me that we don't have the services here in New Zealand to deal with people who've come out of cults. No one chooses to be in a cult, and most of them grew up in them, who were born into them, or they were misled by something that looked really good to them. People who've come out of cults suffer from adverse health effects, suicidal ideation, often loss of income, lack of education, relationship breakdowns. The trauma can last a lifetime. So this is a massive, unrecognized public health issue.
Many of these groups have been around for a long time, and we're quite familiar with how they operate. And some of those groups don't even really need to recruit because they're having so many babies and they're just expanding in that way. Leaving one of these closed, confined, constrained groups is one of the hardest things somebody ever does.
As a woman born and raised in Goreva, we were groomed to accept male dominance in our lives, and we weren't allowed to say no, and people are celebrated like, yeah, you've left Goreva, and then what? You can leave a cult, but you can't take the cult out of a person. They have to do it themselves, and they have to see if there's something wrong.
I'm a survivor. I was raised 5th generation of a group known as The Truth, or the 2x2s. A lot of us, especially multi-generational, never had an identity before. Our parents never had an identity before this group. Our grandparents never had identities before this group. We come from families that are shells, and their only cultural and identity is the group. We have no concept of whether or not we would enjoy things. We're not allowed to do things. Or if we did do them, there was a lot of shame associated.
When you're in a coercive, controlling group, you're kind of pretty much, as they say, just add water. They give you your mission, your purpose, your life goal, every single thing. The people you're allowed to be around and talk to, everything that you need to do all day long. So not ever sort of making a decision for yourself, like not even what to wear and what food to eat, and like every decision's made for you. Leaving together when in our early 20s, no education, no sense of how to make decisions for ourselves. You're in this tightly controlled environment, and then boom, the whole world's at your feet.
So this is the TSV space, Tauranga Library. I think it's especially significant that we're in a library because cults often stop people from having a higher education. So it's really symbolic that this is happening in the library. It's just mind-blowing for me to think that this is all going to be filled with people tomorrow.
Welcome to Christchurch. I can't think of a better conference to open, and something that we need to do more about in New Zealand.
I'm assuming, like all of you, that I come to this conference not only out of personal interest to learn, but also by way of some professional and personal lived experience as well. I myself am a human rights advocate for LGBTI inclusion to find belonging and acceptance in cultural and religious spaces.
Let me introduce our keynote speaker who flew in all the way from California this week, Dr. Janja Lalich.
Cults don't do anything different. They're using basic social psychology, right? They're doing things that we have responded to all of our lives, right? Most cults, for example, don't drug their members. They don't have to use drugs, right? They're just using plain old social psychology, right? They're preying on your guilt and your shame and emotion and love, and these are the things that get you to react and eventually get you to conform and comply. But even more crucial, I believe, is understanding and recognizing that ideological extremism is manifested most frequently not in suicide missions or outward violence, but rather in the daily manipulation, oppression, subjugation, exploitation of, and violence toward members, cult members, and their families within the cult, including the children.
There's a room full of people who have got a lot of trauma. They're growing into their adult lives damaged. They're not just something interesting to talk about in the latest Netflix TV show.
The children of cults who manage to leave, to escape valiantly, struggle with identity issues and with practical life matters, often without a helping hand. In many ways, they are our heroes. And I applaud all of you who are here with us today, who were born and are raised in a cult. Thank you for being here.
I get teary even thinking about it, because all our lives, especially if you were born in it, you think it's your fault. In our cult, there was this real breakdown of family bonds, and I think that was because it's a risk to the cult leader. To have a family that is tight-knit and that they put each other first and take care of each other. So they think of us, like Kaz said, as little adults. You're there, you could die any day. At least ours was apocalyptic as well. So you don't really get to go through the stages of development. You don't get that sense of safety and trust when you're young. We had spankings from 6 months old. So children had extreme punishments.
Being a child in that environment, you don't really have a lot of emotion. You can't afford to have emotion.
They created this relationship with a non-parent adult who was now the centre point parent, who the child would go to. So it's like, sounds nice, doesn't it? Oh, another adult. But actually it was no adult, because now your parents were too occupied. And the other adult was also too occupied, and they didn't have your best interests at heart.
I was the secretary for Bill Gothard of the Institute in Basic Life Principles. I worked for him in 1993 when I was really young. My parents attended a basic seminar. They wanted me to go to attend one. And that's when I met him, and he invited me to go and be his secretary. He groomed me over that period of time that I was working for him. I was completely under his control. Being minimised for so many years, and you've been demoralised, and you don't have any belief in yourself. So a lot of the healing process is rediscovering yourself and rediscovering that part of yourself.
Someone came up to me in the break and said, I've got a child that's engaged in the who's in the Sons of the Most Holy Redeemer movement. And normally that would be like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm sure there's someone in this room.
One thing that's really special about Decult that I've never really seen anywhere else is that it brings together people from such a wide variety of groups that half of which I've never even heard of. It's incredible to see the parallels between them all. And I feel like that's a really important thing, that most post-religious or post-cult groups that form for survivors are only specific to their one group. And that doesn't make healing rapid. That keeps people stuck in the identity of that former group they were a part of.
I'm so pleased to host this panel of former Jehovah's Witnesses from locally and internationally, who have all really in their different forms turned their grief, loss and trauma of once belonging to this religion into activism and art.
For me, I left at 19 and then went back to it on terms with my dad, and then finally left in 2008 when I was 27. So when I left the religion, I was like, what would make me feel myself again? And so I started playing like a folk punk band and just like immerse myself into a creative space. Writing, making a movie, playing music, writing music, doing poetry, all those things can help you process your trauma, help you find your voice.
So I am really honored to be able to perform this song by Bruce Thompson Bruce lives in England and was born into the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, also known as the Exclusive Brethren. He saw firsthand how the sexual abuse of children was covered up and how money was used to maintain control. Bruce and his young family left the Brethren in 2022. He wrote Freedom Blues, which is the song I'm going to play. Money and power ain't nothing without control. Complete submission is their only goal. A system set up in power, power from above. They trick you into thinking that you ain't good enough.
She found she could hardly sing. She couldn't flap her wings. She was trapped, imprisoned, and she would cry and cry when no one looked.
I've never really felt comfortable with the color red. It always felt powerful, and it caused anxiety. Maybe it's because of purity culture and the history of red petticoats or the scarlet letter, or maybe it's because I was meant to be meek and mild and not red.
I thought I would talk about what helped me to find kind of who I was. I think it's very common when you leave a high control group, you don't have an identity. You actually don't even really know what it is and what self is.
The worst part about leaving is the fact that David, John, Jamel, Eman, Seth, and Andre, friends of mine growing up, during the pandemic, of boys leaving the group who took their lives.
How did this book come about? And why is the intergenerational aspect so important?
Thank you, Lindy. The one piece of context that I don't think Lindy mentioned there is that we're cousins. I came out in 2009 when I was 19, so 15 years ago now. And I'm now a journalist and the chief news director for the Sunday Star Times. There's this amazing world out there full of people who will love and support and protect you. And there's nothing to be afraid of. And all of the things that are telling you that the world is a cold, hard place and that you'll never be loved or accepted, it's not true.
I was a sign of the end times because I was disobedient. Spanky. So that shaped a lot of my life, and then I carried these labels through my life: disobedient, rebel, until eventually it became sad. And then people would walk past me and say, "Why are you sad? You should be smiling. You're saved. You know, all you guys out here, sorry, you're all damned. Yeah, you're saved. You've got eternal life, so you should be smiling." So it's a little bit of my journey. And then when I left, realising that I'd been lied to, and yeah, I was a good person, I was kind, I was a good mum, and I could be who I wanted to be, and I could succeed. And yeah, those lies had fallen away, and yeah, I'm building a life.
If there had actually been decent police interviewing, intervention, they would have ended up talking to children in there. If they had done one decent police interview, I could have exposed 30 years.
We've had brave people speaking up very, very loudly. We've had a heap of supporters create amazing networks. The whole country knows about the problem. You'll know about it, don't you? The politicians know about it.
at the moment, we're not only fighting the powers that be in Gloriavale, we're fighting the government, we're fighting the politicians, we're fighting the bureaucrats. And typical lawyer, I've got the evidence here.
Probably every cult does labor trafficking. You work your butt off hour after hour, day after day, year after year, and you are not getting paid, right? Or maybe you're getting paid some ridiculous little amount of money, but so and that's labor trafficking. That's slave labor.
We need the public to know. We need the general public to know about cults. So what I try and do is get it out to the public.
And how successful have you been?
Yeah, so one example is I funded a paper that resulted in a grand jury in Pennsylvania. So 16 people have been arrested as a result of that. On cigarette packages in Australia, we have warnings. There's no warnings on the churches.
Oh, wow.
There's no warnings on their websites. Why couldn't that be legislated? But what drives me is, just like I can see the audience in front of me today, I can see the children. I can see the next generation of children and the one after that suffering what we did if I don't keep going. So I can't stop because we have to stop it in our generation.
If you may remember from this morning, a powerful call to action, a collective combined one on behalf of this conference, is the call for an independent, impartial, secular, public entity and mechanism for people caught in the throes of being in a cult, or those who have previously experienced being in a cult, technically speaking, or in high control coercive environments. That does not exist currently in New Zealand.
Imagine we had legislation in New Zealand to make coercive control a crime, and that existing charities with a track record of abuse would lose their tax breaks. Right.
The fact that we've got hundreds of people at a conference about cults show how deep the problem is. You could see the pain, and we need to do something.
A lot of psychologists, in my experience as I've been going through my training, aren't taught how to handle those things in it either, not when it comes specifically to this.
I think it's really important to use the cult word. We had a bit of discussion about that yesterday, and, you know, do we call it a high demand group, whatever, but actually I managed to get away with using the C word in my PhD. I think my university didn't know enough about it, so I got away with what helps former cult members recover. I proudly use it. I was in a cult. You know, there's been no training for therapists, and that's probably true worldwide, actually. And so I kind of set off on this road, which brings me here, which is incredible.
I'm going to be doing the first stage of that training in a week's time with her, and that's amazing because I contacted her years ago to see if I could do the training, but she was like, "Oh no, you must come to New Zealand sometime." So the cult conference have made that possible.
I have attended many, many, many conferences over the years, right? I've been doing this 38 years. I have never, ever experienced the kind of energy of this conference, with the sense of togetherness, the sense of hope.
This is not a conference, it's a support group. That's what I've been saying. It's really been such a supportive, amazing environment, honestly. It's been so wonderful.
Unfortunately, this movement, what we might call the cult awareness movement, has seen and passed its 25-year mark, and we still have miles to go. And perhaps here in New Zealand, you are addressing this matter seriously for the first time. So carry on with the determination and the knowledge that we're here to support each other and that we are a growing movement.
Thanks, everyone. It has been truly an incredible experience here. I hope you've made some really great friends. I hope you've leaving with some powerful information that will help you in your advocacy and your support as you help others who are on their journey, and as we help to stigmatize this issue that is so easily misunderstood by many. And I hope for many of you who have lived experience of the issues that we've engaged this past 2 days, I hope you really feel seen, and I hope you feel really heard. And I hope that we take that spirit, sorry to use that language, but we use that and we take it out there to actually help others. So thank you all.
I think what we've seen here over the last few days is also the dignity of people who've come out of the shadows of prejudice against former cult members, and they're really changing the narratives. It just goes to show how incredible people are who've come out of cults.
Sing my freedom blues. Now I'm free from the shackles and the chains. Eyes are open, free from the rain. I can walk, I'm almost running. I have my own mind. Make my own decisions. I'm free to decide. If you ain't got nothing, you got nothing left to lose. Still have your dignity, you can still choose. If you don't comply, they'll abandon you. No need to worry, it's just what they do. Now that I'm free, I've got nothing to lose. I can just sit here and sing my